Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are jumping into a stack of sources that really, they just throw you headfirst into this world where high-stakes archaeology collides with some really deep geopolitical intrigue.
It really does. And it all centers on this single legendary artifact.
Right. And our source material is just, it's a wild ride. We're talking about pirates, ancient religious orders, terrorists, cynical government spies. They are all chasing after one thing, something called the Casket of Bones.
And, the narrative is so clever. It uses this sleek, modern, luxurious setting to sort of mask these ancient, almost existential conflicts bubbling just beneath the surface.
So what's our mission for this deep dive?
I think our goal is to really unpack all these different layers of hostility to try and get a handle on the core beliefs that are driving these incredibly different groups.
And to see why one woman, the archaeologist Annja Creed, is somehow at the very center of this huge global chase.
Exactly. She is the nexus.
And what a start we have. I mean, we open aboard the Ocean Venture. It's this enormous ocean liner described as the most modern, most luxurious ship ever built.
It's cutting through the Caribbean, past Aruba, heading for Curacao. It's a 5-star setting, absolutely.
But it's a 5-star setting for what the sources call a 0-star arrangement that Annja finds herself in.
That's the perfect way to put it. Because Annja Creed, and we should talk about her for a second, she is this fiercely independent archaeologist. She's a historian.
A specialist in the Renaissance, right?
And a trained martial artist. Professionally, she's the voice of reason on that big TV show, Chasing History's Monsters.
And here she is in this story, forced into a role that is just completely beneath her. She's basically serving as arm candy for this enigmatic billionaire, Garen Braden.
We really do need to spend some time on Garen Braden right at the top here, because the whole conflict, it starts with him.
It does. I mean, officially, he's the CEO of Europetro, this massive oil company. The sources just flat out say he's richer than God.
And on the surface, he's charming, perfectly dressed, looks to be in his early 30s.
But that's all a front.
It's a complete lie. It's an appearance he has maintained for centuries. Garen is immortal. Or, to be more specific, the sources say he's extraordinarily tough to kill.
That distinction feels important.
It's critical, because this isn't some simple superpower. He makes it very clear that he is not immune to suffering.
Wow.
So think about that. He's lived for centuries. He's picked up skills from the greatest fighters, the greatest thinkers in history, and yet he carries this burden of knowing he can't be hurt, really hurt, even if he can't, be fully extinguished.
That just sets up this incredible tension from the get-go. Annja is completely trapped. It's not just a favor he's calling in.
No, he's leveraging this massive life-saving debt that she owes him. And it's worth pausing on just how he's doing that.
Because the leverage it's absolute, isn't it?
Totally. In the process of saving her life in a previous story, Garen, being the ultimate operator that he is, he managed to use that situation to just exponentially increase his own wealth, his own influence.
So when Annja, who is obviously deeply uncomfortable with this whole setup, tries to call it blackmail.
He corrects her.
Yeah.
And that correction is chilling.
What does he say?
He says, I believe extortion is more correct under the circumstances. He insists that even though he gained massively from this situation, her moral obligation is, completely undiminished.
Because in his world, there's always a choice.
Always. Even if that choice is simply whether or not you want to be completely destroyed by him.
I mean, that's terrifying. And what's so fascinating is that his power play, it isn't just about money or emotions.
No, it's almost metaphysical. The sources reveal that Annja possesses the mystic sword of Joan of Arc. And Garen, he actively wants to break it.
Why? What's the threat?
He's afraid. He fears that her claim on that sword might somehow cause his gift of immortality, which he prefers not to call a curse, to just evaporate.
So she's trapped not just by a normal debt, but by a threat that could literally erase his entire existence.
Exactly. It grounds the whole story immediately in this ancient, high-stakes, almost magical conflict, even while they're, sipping champagne in the grand ballroom.
In that ballroom setting.
Yeah.
It just makes her discomfort so much more palpable. She's forced into this backless gown, stiletto heels.
Which she calls her torture devices.
Right. And she notes that with all her training, the heels make her feel like she's dancing like a water buffalo on skates.
It's a gilded cage. It's designed to disarm her, to demean her, to make her feel like her capable, dangerous nature is just completely suppressed.
It's the ultimate dramatic irony. You have this highly trained operative forced to look like a damsel in distress.
And it's the perfect scenario for chaos to strike.
Which, of course, it does. And for Annja, it's actually a strange kind of relief.
Chaos arrives with just astonishing speed. Her tense conversation with Garen is just shattered. Black-hooded men shouting in Spanish accented English, they storm the ballroom.
They announce they've commandeered the ship in the name of the People's Revolution, and they punctuate it with a burst of automatic fire into the ceiling.
And Anja's first internal reaction is just perfect.
Relief.
Relief. Because for that moment, facing these anonymous kind of predictable terrorists is actually less lethal, less emotionally draining than facing Garen's centuries-old murderous intentions.
A hijacking is a known quantity. Garen Braden is not.
Exactly. And Garen's reaction tells you everything you need to know about his mindset. He doesn't panic.
Yeah.
He just finds the whole thing tedious.
He immediately dismisses the idea that they're trying to kidnap him.
Right. He says he sensed their intention. He suspects it's just a diversion or maybe just some opportunistic pirates looking to loot the wealthy passengers.
Then the situation escalates very quickly, and it demands a kind of response that, well, only an immortal commando could probably provide.
A gunman raises his pistol toward a small girl who's broken away from her parents, screaming for her mother. And Garen intervenes.
He steps right in front of the gunman.
Holds up his hands like he's surrendering, and is immediately shot point blank in the chest. But the move is completely calculated.
He's wearing body armor.
Of course. It reveals his hidden armor, it neutralizes the immediate threat, and it lets him transition instantly from victim to aggressor.
And his response is just terrifyingly efficient. He kills 3 hijackers almost instantly.
The sources are brutal in their detail. A back fist to snap a neck artery, then 2 precisely aimed headshots to what's described as the ninja mask region.
Just short-circuiting their nervous systems.
Instantly. And when he's asked later how he got so good at this, so ruthless.
He just casually says he learned from the best, and then he name-drops Wild Bill Hickok.
And that little historical detail is so crucial. It's not just a clever line. It tells you his skill set isn't modern. He has been honing these dark arts for hundreds of years, learning from the most lethal people in history. It makes him a true master of violence.
Meanwhile, Annja, who's been separated from Garen in the chaos, she has her own moment of tactical genius. And it's one that's born directly out of her frustration with the situation.
She uses her lack of coordination in those stilettos to her advantage.
She stumbles, crashes into a gunman.
But as she goes down, she delivers this decisive backhand right to his Adam's apple.
It's a move designed to incapacitate, not necessarily kill, but it's brutally effective.
Oh, yeah. Whether she collapsed his windpipe or just left him gagging, he was completely out of the fight. She basically turns her role as arm candy into an improvised weapon.
So once the immediate threat is dealt with, Annja shifts gears. She goes into professional security mode.
Right. She organizes the other hostages and, crucially, establishes a fake narrative.
She tells everyone that a big, bald guy in a tux did all the shooting.
And that detail is so important because that generic description could fit any number of Garen's security team.
So it allows her specific involvement, the woman in the backless gown taking out a gunman, to just vanish from the official record.
She protects her operational obscurity. She refuses to be the hero if it means exposing her capabilities to, the wrong people.
The cleanup afterwards is just immediate and total. Garen's team of former commandos secures the ship before the U.S. SEALs or the Dutch commandos even get there.
And he makes sure to control the media. He bribed the media to push this narrative that it was all a multinational sting operation, that they just captured some simple pirates interested in looting.
Annja immediately smells a rat. She suspects the revolutionary talk was fake, sure, but Garen's cover story is just, it's too convenient.
Way too smooth to be the whole truth. And the real reason for the hijacking is confirmed a short time later when she's contacted by a man named Cedric Millstone.
And this is where the scope of the whole conflict just explodes.
It really does. Millstone represents a private international society devoted to humanitarian works. A very smooth, very innocuous title.
For the Knights of the Risen Savior.
Exactly. And Millstone confirms the hijacking was just a diversion.
He calls it a noisy and, in the event, highly lethal diversion.
Orchestrated by the real thieves. And the actual prize, stolen from the ship and all that chaos, was an artifact of immense antiquity.
The casket containing the bones of a certain very holy man.
And that revelation instantly shifts the entire landscape of the story. We've moved from a squabble about oil and immortality to a quest for a profound religious and archaeological relic.
And Annja, who is just a reluctant witness, is now directly in the crosshairs of every single group that wants this thing.
Which brings the danger right to her front door. Back in her Brooklyn loft, she's trying to process all this.
And she's violently interrupted. Men in all black, rappelling down from her shattered skylight, attack her.
And the crucial detail. They're carrying modern submachine guns and short swords.
The swords. In a modern Brooklyn loft, that's a signal.
It signals this is not a conventional operation. These are highly specific, disciplined, ideologically driven attackers. And who were they?
They are Millstone's men, the knights themselves.
Unbelievable. Millstone, who barely survived a suspicious jet crash himself, he claims his men were only trying to capture her alive.
Using tranquilizer projectiles only.
And swords, just to intimidate her into revealing what she knew. Of course, Annja fought back with her own mystic sword and training, and it did not end well for her attackers.
So this forces us to really look at the Knights of the Risen Savior. They aren't just, historians.
No, they're a highly trained paramilitary group of zealots with a history that supposedly spans 8 centuries.
Millstone claims their order was founded in Jerusalem in 1228 by Emperor Frederick II.
And their charge was to guard this relic because it was, and I quote, believed to threaten the very fabric of society.
That is an extraordinary claim, and we have to talk about the historical context of Frederick II. We do, because in his time, he was known as Stupor Mundi, the wonder of the world, and he was maybe the least likely person in the 13th century to found a religious order.
He was a rationalist, deeply skeptical of organized religion. He was excommunicated multiple times by the Pope. He got Jerusalem back through negotiation, not by conquest. He basically rented it from the Sultan. So the idea that this highly irreverent, rationalist emperor would found an order dedicated to a single holy relic, it suggests a couple of things.
Okay, what are they?
Well, first, that the relic's power was so profoundly destabilizing that it could challenge even his rational outlook.
And second?
Second, that the order, while it looks religious on the surface, might actually have a pragmatic secular core that's focused solely on maintaining global stability.
And they learned from the mistakes of the Knights Templar.
A huge point. Millstone says they chose to remain hidden to avoid the Templars' fate, and instead they just quietly amassed huge financial holdings over 8 centuries. Their power isn't just in their swords, it's in their deep, hidden wealth.
But the question is, how much of Millstone's story can you actually trust?
Exactly. An organization that operates in total secrecy and attacks Annja in her home. Should she, or you, the listener, believe their version of history right away?
Annja's greatest strength is her skepticism, and she immediately goes into investigative mode. She trusts her own data over their story.
She doesn't rely on them. She relies on hard evidence. She uses satellite imaging, Google Earth, timestamp photos, her own contacts, and she starts tracking the professional thieves who use the hijacking as a cover.
She traces the movement from the ship, 3 pirate boats, and then a larger fast-power yacht that just vanished.
And her data leads her to Panama. There's a great detail in the source where she gets a lead from a music file named 001.mp3 that just plays Van Halen's Panama.
A subtle confirmation. And when she gets to Panama City, the local news is already screaming about a boathouse massacre.
This is where her network of informants becomes so critical. She finds this drunken but very perceptive local reporter, Guillermo.
And he provides these key auditory details.
He reports hearing suppressed firearms, popo, as he puts it, which indicates professional executions, not some sloppy street crime.
He also saw North American gringos loading a suggestively shaped, very heavy pinewood crate onto a panel truck.
And the weight of it, causing the truck to visibly sink on its springs, that confirms the size and density of the cargo. It's the casket.
And Annja's main informant, Lujan, gives her the name of the boss, Cyrus St. Clair. This thin, pale man.
And he confirms the intended vessel, the Solomon Kane, which Annja has to verify in the harbor records because Lujan misheard it as Solomon King.
The sources then detail just how chillingly ruthless St. Clair is.
Marty Melman, the pirate leader who did the actual theft, he and his entire crew are massacred in that boathouse right after they deliver the coffin.
St. Clair is described as cold, pale, dressed all in white, which is this terrifying contrast to his lethal efficiency.
He actually lets the pirates look inside the coffin. It's described as a gray metal coffin with an aroma of exotic spices, and then his men just emerge from the shadows and open fire with suppressed MP5s.
He executes every single witness. There's no compunction, just this terrifying focus on minimizing his trail.
And he holds U.S. diplomatic credentials, which hints at this powerful secret organization, one that sees mercenary pirate crews as completely disposable the second their job is done.
So this reveals a new chilling layer. Not all the villains here are motivated by ancient faith or personal greed. Some are just cold-blooded government operators with a secret agenda.
Which intensifies the chase again. It moves violently into the South Pacific, pulling Annja completely out of the Western geopolitical sphere.
This artifact has become a hot potato, and it's heading into a region with totally different power players.
Annja tracks the Solomon Cane to an island called La Rêve. It's a small, isolated place in the Marquesas with an astronomical research station.
And what she finds there is another firefight.
She witnesses the aftermath of a battle where the white guys, Millstone's knights, identified by their swords, have been defeated.
And the victors are these shorter, wirier, darker-skinned men in jungle camo, and they are also carrying swords.
Which is an immediate sign that the conflict has escalated and the artifact has new custodians.
And these new players are the commandos of the Sultanate of Rimba Perak.
Right. Annja confirms the coffin is briefly stashed on the island before these men secure it and leave on a freighter called the Ozymandias. Her presence is noted, and she's sort of strategically lured to the Sultanate itself.
And this introduces us to one of the most compelling characters in this whole deep dive, Sultan Wera.
He's fascinating. He's young, handsome, an absolute potentate, but he's also a progressive reformer. He's trying to run a secularizing country while still honoring Islam.
He's got a clipped British accent, he's trained like a commando, and maybe most surprisingly, he's a huge fan of Annja's TV show.
And his position is incredibly fragile, which is absolutely key to understanding his motives. His father was assassinated by the Sword of the Faith.
An Islamist terrorist group.
Yeah, and they're leading this brutal, ongoing insurrection against all of Wera's modernization reforms. His palace isn't just a palace, it's a fortress, with self-forging projectile launchers, blast shields.
He's a modern ruler fighting a deeply fundamentalist war. And his methods are this strange mix of ruthlessness and refinement.
I love the detail that he actively studies Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People to manage his foreign affairs. He's trying to apply corporate self-help to international diplomacy.
So this sets up an immediate, intense ideological clash. Annja hears two completely passionate but totally conflicting stories about the relic.
The knights, who are now represented by an older man, Hevelin, and a younger one, Sharshak, they claim Wera and his forces are unbelievers who are going to use the relic for jihad.
And on the other side, Wera's forces, through a Lieutenant Mahmoud, they claim the knights are dangerous fanatics and modern-day crusaders who believe the time is overdue for Jesus to judge the world in fire.
So you've got two highly disciplined, highly resourced groups, and they're both claiming the other's trying to trigger a religious Armageddon.
But this is more than just talk, right? Wera's core belief is pragmatic.
It is. He's professionally skeptical of the relic's miraculous powers, but he is acutely worried about its power to cause social upheaval.
He understands that if the contents of that casket were revealed, it could overturn deeply held beliefs and instantly destabilize his fragile secular country.
For him, the relic is a weapon of political chaos.
And the danger for Annja and Rimba Perak is just immediate. She suffers 2 assassination attempts, a drive-by shooting, and a cafe shooting.
And what's terrifying is that the local security chief, Panama, he knew these attempts were probably going to happen. He let them proceed.
Why? What was his logic?
His ruthless logic was that the near-death experiences would force Annja to volunteer information to ensure her own safety. He was using her as bait.
The assassins were likely working for Eddie Cowhow,
Leader of the Red Hand. The sources describe him as the most ruthless and smartest pirate chieftain in the South China Sea.
So this introduces yet another faction. Pure, organized, high-level crime.
Okay, so let's recalibrate for a second for you, the listener, because this web is incredibly complex now. We have 5 main players all converging on this one casket.
First, you've got the Knights of the Risen Savior. They're the custodians, focused on historical preservation, Christian piety, but they're willing to use violence.
Second, Sultan Wera and Rimba Perak. He's the pragmatic protector, fighting for secular stability, and he sees the relic as a source of political chaos.
Third, the Sword of the Faith. They're the fundamentalist terrorists trying to destroy Wera and establish an Islamic state.
Fourth, Cyrus St. Clair. The cynical patriot, a secret government agent manipulating everything for his own geopolitical goals.
And finally, Eddie Howe's Red Hand. The opportunistic thieves, just mercenaries looking for the highest bidder.
It's a stunning multi-front war fought over one small box.
And the conflict just keeps spiraling. Moira tells Annja that the Red Hand pirates managed to steal the casket again.
Right from his men, after the knights had briefly recovered it on the Rave. So now Eddie Cow has the prize.
Moira is now desperate enough to consider just destroying it.
The artifact is too great a threat. If it falls into the hands of the Sword of the Faith, it could ruin his country. So his plan is to sink the whole pirate fleet, send the relic to the bottom of the ocean.
Annja, the archaeologist, is horrified by that idea. She has to find a way to stop Cow without forcing Moira to commit this act of, historical vandalism.
And she comes with this brilliant piece of indirect intelligence, a strategic move that's both effective and legally clean.
It really highlights her professional skills beyond just fighting. She knows the Red Hand operates in protected Philippine waters.
So her suggestion is this. Moira should use his intelligence network, Panoma's network, to tip off the Philippine government that the Red Hand is running guns to Muslim separatists in their territory.
Which is a legitimate terrorism charge. It gives the Philippines a legal reason to go after them. But that's only half the plan.
The other half is Moira uses a different third party to tip off the pirates that the Filipinos are coming for them.
So it flushes them out. It forces them out of protected waters into the open sea.
Where the Rimba-Perak Navy can stroke them without causing a major international incident. Moira loves the plan. He notes Panama is very good at dripping the proper poisons in the proper ears.
So the stage is set for this brutal climax in the Sulu Sea.
The Rimba-Perak Navy just hits the scattered pirate fleet with overwhelming firepower. We're talking ship-killing missiles, Harrier-attack jets. The sources describe it as a volcanic spectacle.
Annja, in a black Zodiac, pursues the pirate flagship, the Sea Scorpion, where she knows Moira and his commandos are going to board to get the casket.
Amidst all that chaos, Moira and his commandos make it aboard. But they're not alone.
The Knights of the Risen Savior, Heroine and Sharshak, they also board the Sea Scorpion.
And they are initially ready to fight Moira's men. They are still fueled by this idea that the Muslim Sultan is the enemy.
In the hold of the ship, the conflict comes to a head. Moira finds and engages Eddie Cow in a sword fight.
It's a quick, brutal exchange. Moira gets slashed across the belly, but he recovers instantly and slices the Cow's throat, killing the pirate leader.
And this is where the entire geopolitical and ideological web just completely unravels.
Cyrus St. Clair, the pale U.S. agent from Panama, appears in the hold. And he is allied with the Sword of the Faith terrorists, Sultan Moira's mortal enemies.
This is the critical moment. St. Clair reveals his motive, and it is arguably the most monstrous of them all.
He claims he's working for U.S. government policy to, in his words, goose along the war on terror.
To goose along the war. Unpack that phrase for us.
It means deliberately giving the terrorists the controlled win. In this case, handing them this symbolically powerful relic. The goal is to remind the American public and the world why the U.S. fights. He calls himself the greatest of patriots for this.
His actions are entirely calculated. It's not conviction, it's just cold political maneuvering.
And he intends to torture Annja on Videomaker, the queen of YouTube, for at least a week, to show the world these barbarians and generate the public outcry he needs to keep the funding flowing for U.S. anti-terror policy.
We have to pause on this. This makes St. Clair arguably the most monstrous figure in the whole story.
I think so. The Knights, Moira, even the Sword of the Faith, they're all driven by passionate conviction, a belief they're fighting for a higher cause. St. Clair is just feeding conflict for domestic political gain. His monstrosity is from calculation, not belief.
So this sets up the final chaotic battle. Moira's commandos, the Knights, St. Clair's terrorists, all in the hold of this ship.
Annja sees her chance. She slashes the men holding her, then makes this desperation swing with her sword and slices St. Clair's stomach open, killing him.
And in the melee that follows, we see this profound shift in alliances. The lines between Christian Knight and Muslim Sultan are just erased.
The young knight, Sharshak, he dies protecting Sultan Moira from a terrorist.
Hevelin, the older knight, and Moira stand over Sharshak's body.
And they have this moment of realization. They fought passionately against each other, driven by this ancient hatred, but in the end they fought and died together for good against the true nihilistic evil of St. Clair and the fundamentalists.
Moira clasps Hevelin's hand in friendship.
It's this incredible moment that validates Annja's skepticism of ideology, her commitment to pragmatic action, her refusal to believe the end justifies the means. It created this alliance based on shared necessity, not shared theology.
And Moira, recognizing her clarity, agrees to let her claim the relic for scientific judgment.
So in the immediate aftermath, they examine it. The gray metal coffin is opened.
The sources don't describe what's inside.
No, but whatever it is, it provokes this collective audible gasp from everyone there. Annja, having seen it, she quickly reseals the casket and just says that the world is not ready for something like this.
That one statement carries the weight of the entire narrative. The reaction confirms the relic's significance is monumental. It's not just a religious object, it's something so potent it could trigger immediate global collapse.
So Annja, acting as this arbiter of science and stability, she agrees with Evelyn. The casket has to be hidden away in the Knight's climate-controlled vault. Its power to cause chaos, proven by the war they just fought, it outweighs any benefit of its revelation.
Meanwhile, the tragic threads of Moira's internal conflict get resolved.
He receives the final, heartbreaking proof that the palace traitor who aided the assassins was his loyal Grand Vizier Krishna.
Who was secretly a devout fundamentalist.
He viewed Moira's secular reforms as blasphemy.
Which brings us back to that core moral paradox Annja grapples with. Everyone involved, Moira, the Knights, the Sword of the Faith, even St. Clair, was passionately convinced they were right.
She realizes that profound conviction is the real danger. Annja concludes that one of the surest ways to turn into a monster is to try too hard to do the right thing, to let the end justify the means.
Her saving grace, the thing that keeps her conscience clean, is her refusal to accept that premise.
It's a powerful reflection on ideology. If your belief system lets you justify any act of violence for some greater future, you've already lost your humanity. Her path is skepticism, pragmatism.
And the story closes on this deeply poignant personal sacrifice. Annja and Moira, they've survived, they've shared this deep connection, they share a kiss.
But Annja decides to leave him quickly. She recognizes the impossible nature of their bond.
She knows that her life, forever tied to that sword and all this danger, will only bring him harm and instability.
So she sacrifices the relationship to protect him. She realizes a ruler like Moira, fighting for the future of his nation, can't be seen as hiding behind a woman's skirts. She leaves him to his duty.
The final scene it's heavy, but it's necessary. Moira, standing on his flagship, still bleeding from his own wound, gives the final order.
Execute the fire mission on the captured pirate flagship, the Sea Scorpion. Destroy it, and any lingering threat to his region, once and for all. It's the act of a pragmatic, modern hero.
So this deep dive has shown us this astonishing, multi-layered war fought over a single object. It really forced us to look at the blurred lines between terrorist, knight, diplomat, and pirate.
We saw how quickly those lines blur, and how genuine, passionate conviction can be used to justify horrific violence, while the complete absence of conviction can justify an even greater cynicism.
The relic is gone. It's hidden away, because Annja decided the knowledge it contained was just too volatile for the world. The potential for social upheaval was too great.
And that leaves us with one final provocative thought for you, the listener. We know this casket of bones was guarded by knights, founded by a skeptical, rational emperor. It was pursued by zealots, and it was used as fodder by cynical geopolitical operatives.
Given the extreme lengths they all went to, including a U.S. agent collaborating with terrorists, what specific piece of historical or scientific truth contained within a simple casket could possibly justify that risk of global social upheaval and total warfare?
What knowledge is so dangerous that it must be hidden forever? Think about what long-cherished belief Annja saw that she decided the world just wasn't ready to have overturned.